2024 has been a wild ride for Bitcoin. We've seen plenty of new all-time highs. We appear to be on the precipice of a new bull market, and Bitcoin has achieved a number of new accomplishments, ranging from institutional adoption to successfully completing its fourth halving. In this special Bitcoin Reactions 2024 year-end review, we're going to go back in time and revisit all of the amazing things that happened to Bitcoin over the past year. And at the end, I'm going to give you my predictions of everything I think we'll see in 2025, including my 2025 all-time high price predictions. So let's start by going back to January 1st, 2024, where the Bitcoin price opened at roughly $42,000, a roughly 154% increase from the year before, where it opened at $16,000, and when Peter Zeihan said this.
What's Bitcoin at? 16,000? It has another 17,000 to go down.
Then, only 10 days after the new year, the SEC approved 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs.
Hi, Morgan. We are just getting word from the SEC that a wave of Bitcoin ETFs have been approved.
This was a major milestone, signifying the acceptance of Bitcoin to a large part of the traditional financial community. And what made these ETFs even more special was that they were all over a decade in the making. The first ETF proposal happened in 2013 and was proposed by Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss. You might remember them as the other guys that thought that they started Facebook. And since their proposal, there had been many others, all of which were rejected by the SEC. After the ETF approval, the Bitcoin price hovered around the mid-40s for about a month, until it went on a quick tear, hitting a new all-time high of just under $74,000 on March 13th.
The price of Bitcoin surging again this morning, passing through the $73,000 level.
People in the Bitcoin community were ecstatic. Most weren't expecting to see a new high until several months after the halving, which was still over a month away. However, after Bitcoin reached that new all-time high, the price quickly took a step back. 1 month later, on April 19th, 2024, the fourth Bitcoin halving successfully occurred, decreasing the Bitcoin block reward from 6.25 Bitcoin to 3.125 Bitcoin. In the past, Bitcoin halvings have always signaled the start of multi-year bull runs, and everybody was paying attention to see if this trend would continue. After the halving, however, the Bitcoin price stayed flat for several months. Despite the price staying flat though, Bitcoin's momentum didn't stop. On April 30th, Hong Kong followed America's lead and launched their own Bitcoin ETF.
This is a big listing ceremony today, the launch of crypto ETFs. It'll be the first time in Asia.
And on July 31st, Senator Cynthia Lummis publicly introduced the Bitcoin Act, a bill aiming to establish a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve of 1 million Bitcoin over the course of the next 5 years.
This is the Bitcoin Reserve Bill.
This bill was met with a lot of fanfare from the Bitcoin community, as well as a lot of skepticism from the mainstream media. Regardless, this signified a big step in Bitcoin's evolution. It showed that it was something that was big enough that the United States government needed to take seriously. Also in July, both presidential candidates, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, began leaning into the Bitcoin constituency, with Donald Trump even making a speech at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. While it could be argued that they were both just trying to placate to a very devoted group of Bitcoiners, it was still a big deal, as it was the first time any candidate felt the need to publicly address Bitcoin as an election issue. Notably, the Bitcoin Reserve Bill was not the only Bitcoin bill that was introduced in 2024. 10 different states, Texas, Pennsylvania, Wyoming, New Hampshire, Florida, California, Nevada, North Carolina, and Arizona all introduced bills to create strategic reserves for their state as well. And in addition to strategic reserve bills, other states including Oklahoma, Louisiana, Montana, and Arkansas all introduced bills to protect Bitcoin rights in regards to Bitcoin mining, self-custody, and node operations. And outside of the United States, it was revealed that the country of Bhutan had been quietly buying Bitcoin and was now one of the countries with the largest Bitcoin reserves. Then, on October 31st, I launched this YouTube channel, Bitcoin Reactions. And I'm not saying what happened next was a result of me and this YouTube channel, but the timing is pretty suspect. Because less than a week later, on November 6th, Bitcoin jumped in price and hit a new all-time high. And the price continued to skyrocket, going right past $100,000 until it reached $108,000 per Bitcoin on December 17th, before quickly retracing and going back under the $100,000 mark.
The
price of a single Bitcoin has climbed above $100,000 for the first time.
There's still a handful of more days to go until we reach the new year, but unless something major happens, it looks like Bitcoin is going to close the year at somewhere around $100,000. And that would give Bitcoin a yearly return of about 138%, which as of today is about 4.5 times greater than the S&P 500. And now that we've talked about what Bitcoin did in 2024, let's look ahead and I'll give you my predictions for 2025. Prediction 1. Bitcoin is going to continue its massive bull run for most of the next year. In the past, Bitcoin has peaked in price every 4 years, with the last major peak happening in November 2021, where it hit just under 70K. If this trend continues, then it would make sense that Bitcoin would hit another major all-time high somewhere near the end of 2025 before quickly crashing back into another bear market. That being said, the fact that we hit a new all-time high before this year's halving means that everything's on the table. Maybe we hit a new all-time high in 2025, then crash into a bear market. Maybe we hit a new all-time high and keep going up. I can't tell the future, but my guess is that we're going to continue on the same general trend that we've seen for each of the previous halvings. Prediction number 2. I think that some form of the Bitcoin reserve bill is going to get passed. At this point, I think it's really a coin flip and it could go either way. Polymarket says that the chances of the Bitcoin reserve bill passing in the first 100 days are about 34%. I also asked the AI chatbot and it said that the chances of it passing were about 60 to 70%. That said, the bill is seeing bipartisan support with Democratic congressmen like Ro Khanna and Kirsten Gillibrand seemingly being backers. That said, there's still a significant amount of headwind that the bill would have to face, with senators like Elizabeth Warren being staunchly anti-Bitcoin. Either way, Bitcoin is poised to succeed long-term, regardless of whether this bill passes or not. So, if you're stressing out about it, don't. In the long run, it really doesn't matter. Prediction 3. I predict that we're going to continue to see an increased level of adoption of Bitcoin at the consumer, corporate, and nation-state level. People are beginning to figure out that Bitcoin is here to stay. And a lot of people are beginning to realize that while most of crypto is just a bunch of scams, Bitcoin is completely legit and more people are beginning to allocate their wealth into it. MicroStrategy, for example, started a trend with public companies beginning to allocate their cash reserves into Bitcoin. And I expect more companies to follow MicroStrategy's lead. I also think that at least one other country will be revealed as a major buyer of Bitcoin and will be added to the list, which right now includes El Salvador and Bhutan. Prediction 4. And this is probably the prediction that most of you guys have been waiting for. I'm going to reveal my Bitcoin price predictions for 2025. But before I do, I need to add one very important caveat. No one, including me, knows what the Bitcoin price will be tomorrow, next week, or next year.
But nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in fucking circles.
The only thing I really feel confident about saying is that the role of Bitcoin is going to continue to increase over the long term, and the price is going to continue to increase with it. So, in general, I try to avoid thinking about short-term Bitcoin price movements. But that said, my just for fun Bitcoin price predictions for 2025 are... Well, I actually have two. If the Bitcoin bill does not pass, I think that the Bitcoin price will peak at about $150,000. But if it does pass, then I think it will set off a chain reaction and the Bitcoin price will peak at $250,000 in 2025. So there you have it. $150,000 or $250,000, depending on whether or not the US adopts a Bitcoin strategic reserve. What do you think about my price predictions? Were they too high or were they too low? Tell me in the comments. And what are your 2025 predictions about Bitcoin? Do you have any that I missed? I want to know. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you haven't already, be sure to give me a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel a lot. And make sure you share this video with your friends who like Bitcoin too. That was a fun one. I'll see you guys all for the next video. I'm out.